own color in Florida, and we are incorporating expert testimony as well as lived experiences of people from around the state.
At the forefront of what we do when we, pass laws and legislation for our state, we do it because it's supposed to be at the best interest of our people, the best interest of our state and our communities and our country. Laws are supposed to make us safer and not less safe. Laws are supposed to decrease violence and not increase violence.
I believe that the Stand Your Ground law should be repealed. It was written by the corporate gun lobby with the intent and the focus of selling more guns. This is not a law that's intended to make us safer in our communities. It's not intended to support and help law enforcement, and it has real-world consequences.
I'd like to thank you for your time today, for letting me tell Sandy's story. I know I'll never get to hug or reprimand my little brother again, but today will be a weight off of my shoulders, as well as a chance to find justice for Sandy. That night he told me he was going out with some friends to celebrate his 21st birthday, which was a few days prior, and that he would call me in the morning. My eyes began to read posts of rest in peace Sandy. I thought surely it was somebody else. It wasn't before long that my phone was ringing off the hook with people asking what happened, but I had no idea. When I got to the door, his mother opened it. Tears welled in her eyes and her face red and swollen from crying. The only words that she could make out was, "He's dead," before she collapsed in my arms. Coming back to a friend's house that night after an act night on the town, Sandy stayed outside while his friends went into the home. Sandy turned back to meet his friends and became disoriented, which is easy to do in such a neighborhood that is not only unfamiliar, but known for its tree-laden dirt road paths. Obviously confused, Sandy stumbled up to what he thought was his friend's house. Reaching for the door knob, only to realize it was locked. Surely his friends were playing a rude joke on him. The homeowner followed his call to the police up with going into his safe and grabbing his handgun. It wasn't long thereafter, making that phone call to the authorities, that this man decided to take the situation into his own hands and open up the door. Stumbling in, Sandy only had enough time to get out the words, "Don't point that gun at me," which would be the last thing he ever said. When the authorities arrived, Sandy was already dead from a single gunshot wound to the chest. Because this man couldn't wait an extra 5 minutes, because this man knew under a flawed law that he could take measures into his own hands and be protected, simply because it was his word against a dead man's. This brings me to the problem with the Stand Your Ground law. Someone can basically get away with murder. That man never set foot in a courtroom or even a jail cell. He never felt the steel of handcuffs around his wrists, or even the monetary hardship of a civil case settlement, because the law blatantly states that if you were to say you feel threatened, you have the right to defend yourself with lethal force if necessary.